What's up, everybody? We're here. It's a funny thing when you're the host and you're the guy who set up everything in the back end, right? And you go in there and you're like, I'm going to play my video that I made, right? And then you realize, well, I forgot to upload said video. So here we are. No intro video this week, at least for the YouTube version. We'll have a nice audio intro. I know, I was too. And I'm like, well, crap. John's going to be like, what in the hell's going on? Well, guys, welcome to the Optimus Dynasty show. We are back. It's just John and I tonight. No Matt Chester, but we have a lot coming up tonight. We have a handful of Dynasty trades we're going to go over. We want to help you guys decipher what's going on in the market right now, because you can look at trade calculators, you can look at trade analyzers, but they don't tell you in real time what is happening in leagues. We're going to use the player profiler trade finder tool tonight to look over. We've got 7 trades mostly from MFL, that we've got some from our listeners as well that we're going to go through. There's one, John, specifically for you. A good friend of the show here dropped one into the comments on the tweet here before the show. So we're excited for that one. We've got some comments rolling in already. We have got Vince Mapstone. He has a question. Should I trade my brand muffin for a blueberry one? I'm feeling a bit garish today. I'd do it. I don't do brand though. So, you know, what do you do? We've also got Brad.
Blueberry muffin.
I love blueberry.
Can't go wrong.
No, you can't go wrong. We've got Brad Bolt from Down Under who is tuning in, and he is saying, hey, fellas, how are we going? We're doing great, Brad. We get to talk football today. There is absolutely – oh, I know. I always do. Sorry. I still have his hat. I hope you're going to be at the expo. I owe you a beanie. I've got your Saints beanie you left at the Mobile House, so I got to get that back to you. Yeah, blueberry does clear. It is true. What else clears, John, is we have got a ton of content coming up here on the Optimus Fantasy Football YouTube channel. We have another Scott Fishbowl 14 invite to give away here in the coming weeks. So look for details about that coming soon. They're going to be dropping on our social media channels. Check out the show description here. We have a link tree that will lead you to all of the places you can find Optimus Fantasy. We're all over the place, and we have a website coming very soon, which we are very excited to roll out here. Look for that July 1st. We'll have some other stuff going on leading up to that. You may or may not find us on Reddit. Who knows? Might be doing a few AMAs. But I think, John, we're going to get to it. We buried the lead here a little bit. We've got some trades to talk about. It's that time of year where this is how you make your teams better. There is no offseason in Dynasty. So making trades and making moves according to the market and little things that can happen during the season can really help you build a better roster in the offseason.
Yeah, and this is the time to be making those kind of trades. I mean, you don't necessarily have to like set a lineup or anything like that. So obviously you don't need to have a starting running back. You don't have to make those kind of moves today, but you can start making those moves. But it's just all about price, of course. You don't want to necessarily go out and like overpay for a running back right now, because we know at least 1 or 2 of them are going to get hurt during training camp. Unfortunately, it just happens every year. But if somebody's giving you a cheap deal, just go ahead and take advantage of it. I know some people say don't make any trades until training camp's over, blah blah blah. But like you got to be working year round, just about making sure that you're getting those good values and everything, because otherwise they might just trade it to somebody else, and then now you can't get that player anymore.
Right. Well, and it's important to, if you're someone who wants to get better at Dynasty, you've got to monitor what's going on in your leagues. So you can't just be a guy who checks in every now and again, like, hey, maybe I need to move some parts and pieces. Pay attention to the trades that are going down in your leagues. That'll help you identify potential trade partners. And really, it's going to help you identify value within your league, because we can speak until we're blue in the face about what we think about these guys, John, right? But it doesn't matter if your league mates don't agree. So the biggest part and the caveat to everything we're going to talk about tonight is, if your league mates aren't on board with this, it's not going to work. Okay. So with that, let's get to our first trade that we pulled here. This is a day ago. This is the Christmas on Sunday Dynasty League. It is a 12-team PPR scoring traditional roster, so we don't have Superflex here. It's going to be 1 quarterback. John, here's the trade. I'm interested to see your initial reaction here. Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, and a 2025 second plus a 2026 second to Team B, who is getting Justin Herbert. Now, John, we have seen Justin Herbert's value fall a ton, given he's stepping into the Harbaugh system. This is a pretty high valuation of Herbert. Now, do you agree with this, especially in a 1 QB league where we're seeing him ranked outside of the top 12 in some places?
Yeah, honestly, I was perplexed at first, but then you said 1 QB and it made a lot more sense at that point. Because honestly, like Justin Herbert probably isn't worth that much more than a couple of seconds, or like maybe a late first, something like that in a 1 QB league. So you throw in the other two players, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. I mean, honestly, in a 1 QB league, obviously Justin Fields isn't nearly as valuable as Justin Herbert right now, but like in a 1 QB league, Justin Fields might have the highest upside of any of those players in that deal. And so, you might want to actually just get that player on your team. So like, I actually kind of love it for the Justin Fields side, because you're getting a couple picks out of it and you have that high upside. Now, it might not necessarily help you this year, but you also have Russell Wilson, who's probably not going to score that many points less. Man, I cannot talk. That many fewer, whatever. I cannot talk. But he's not going to score as many points as Justin Herbert, but he is going to score quite a few still. And then next year, I believe that Justin Fields is going to have jobs. He's going to be a starter somewhere in the NFL, whether it's for Pittsburgh, whether it's for another team. And at that point, he's probably going to score more points than Justin Herbert will. And so I like that side of the deal.
Yeah, see, I'm with you here. If I can get this return for Justin Herbert right now, given what we know about the Los Angeles Chargers offense, I mean, it's Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh. They've shown us exactly what they do at the NFL level and at the college level, for that matter. It's not saying that Justin Herbert isn't a good quarterback, but we know the team he's tied to for the foreseeable future. And if you're playing Dynasty the way that most people play it, you're looking at a 2 to 3 year window with these players. That's where your value sits with these guys. The 2 to 3 year window for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, for that matter, in my opinion, is much brighter than it is for Justin Herbert, stuck in a run forward off, no real passing weapons. Quentin Johnson, I mean, come on, right? Like, there isn't a whole lot going on that's exciting in that offense. They got Ladd McConkey. Maybe he spikes a little bit in the absence of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. But really, Fields has that rushing upside that Herbert doesn't have. Russell Wilson has a history of using his weapons appropriately in an offense that might actually use him a little bit more. Plus, you stack those two picks, and now one of them is a 2026. I'm okay with that. They're both second rounders. I'm taking the Fields side here.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, and you also get those extra picks just to re-roll, do whatever you want with. Having seconds, they get deals done. So I love having extra seconds. I love having extra picks. And like I said, I feel like in a 1 QB league, Fields is the highest upside player, and I can basically get Justin Herbert production from somebody else. I'll be okay even if I have to wait. And like I said, Russell Wilson's not going to be that bad anyway.
Right. I really do, to some extent, feel like we're living off of that hype from Justin Herbert's rookie season where he wasn't even supposed to start. Tyrod Taylor doesn't get stabbed in the lung with a needle. We might not see Justin Herbert until mid-season that year. And it was so electric what he did out of nowhere. We weren't expecting to see him. He was supposed to be a project like Josh Allen. He was so good. I don't think he's lived up to what we expected after that first season. So I'm, again, easily taking the Fields side here. The next one we're going to get to, this is a 2-day-ago old trade, very fresh. The Denver Dynasty League, 12 teams, standard scoring, 2 QB. So no PPR, but this is a 2 QB league. Team A is sending James Conner, DeAndre Hopkins, and Travis Kelce to Team B for 2 2025 first-round picks.
I mean, also just thinking about it, it seems pretty fair. It's kind of going to be, where does your, where are you at in your, are you rebuilding? Are you contending, like that kind of thing? Obviously, if you're rebuilding, getting 2 firsts and getting rid of these older assets and Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, James Conner is going to be amazing. But if you're contending, those 3 players are probably going to score a good amount of points this year. So it's just one of those things that makes Dynasty great. It doesn't have to be this guy won or this guy lost or whatever. It could just be a fair trade and a good trade, and I actually think that's what it is. That being said, you're really looking at 3 like dying assets. Like these players
Yeah.
are probably going to die on your roster, especially if you're making this move now. So you better be winning your championship, or at least making it to the ship by making this trade. If your team isn't going to be above and beyond everyone else by making this deal, I think you're paying a little too much for it. But like this is the kind of deal that you can make that could put you over everyone else, and then all of a sudden you just destroy everyone every single week.
Yeah, I'm with you. This team has to be a contender that has just a couple holes to fill. Maybe they're looking for some depth here and there, and they're not bullish on the 2025 class, maybe, or they're not concerned about maybe being able to come back and get more picks in that first round. If Team A is a contender, I like this deal because you're getting good 1-year value out of Travis Kelce, who is going to be a top 3 tight end as long as he stays healthy, which nothing in his history would indicate that he won't. DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, he's probably a wide receiver 2, but I'll take a wide receiver 2 right now. James Conner could be an RB1. I like this trade. Now, this begs the question, though. In Dynasty, when we're talking about this 2 or 3 year window, John, do you think he has 2 to 3 more years of tight end 1 tier production left? Or do you think we're looking at we get that tight end 1 tier this year, and then either there's retirement or a massive fall off in 2025?
So I have quite a bit of Kelce in my dynasty leagues, and I kind of convinced myself that I was going to just let him, ride off into the sunset on my rosters. And, I didn't care. Nobody was going to pay enough and, for what I was going to get. But then I kind of started noticing a pattern the past couple of years where he starts off really hot and then he kind of tails off towards the end. And you love him because he scores so many points for you during the regular season. You're like, oh yeah, I won this game because of him. I won this game because of him, whatever. But then in the playoffs, he kind of tails off and he kind of hurts your team. Not necessarily hurts it, but like he's not helping you as much and like that kind of thing. So last year I had this hypothesis or whatever, this plan where if he started off hot, I was going to sell him after that. Well, of course he goes and gets hurt. And so he couldn't start off hot. He just sat there. So I was like, all right, well, I'm back to plan B or whatever, where I'm just going to stick with them and that kind of thing. So I'm kind of wondering if it's going to be the same thing this year. Does he start off hot because he's 100% healthy, all that kind of stuff, and then fall off later? Or are they actually going to save him this year? So I am a little concerned about that with the usage that they had towards the end of last year, where it really seemed like Andy Reid was keeping him off the field. He wasn't playing a full snap share, like things like that. If they do that, then you might not even have the opportunity to do it. And then at that point, I guess it could be actually a good thing to where maybe he doesn't help you as much in the beginning of the season, but then towards the end of the year, going into playoffs and all that kind of stuff, he starts ramping it up. And now you're getting 2 and 3 touchdown games and stuff in your playoffs. And that'd be pretty sweet. So I guess we kind of have to see, does he come off hot? Because if he's getting 100% snap share, scoring you 2-3 touchdowns a game in like weeks 1 through 5, I might sell him at that point. I really might just take advantage of it and get it. But obviously you have to get quality, something in return, because you can't trade somebody like Travis Kelce and just get like a second or something like that. You got to get something pretty quality in return.
So, I mean, just looking at this trade, I think it's fair to say that you're trading Conner and Hopkins for one of those firsts, and you're trading Kelce for the other first. Is that a fair assessment of the value here? And do you think that's still fair that Kelce is worth a first?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I would almost even say that Kelce's worth a little more than a first, and then you have Conner and Nook like making up the rest. So it's not exactly even. Like we always want to make it like these two players equal one first, and it's not always that way. It can be like this is 3/4 of a first, and this is this and that, and whatever. So I think it adds up to being pretty fair when it's all said and done. Yeah, I think, like I said, it really depends on your team. But like I said, you better be winning it, because next year, literally all 3 of these players could be off your roster or like off NFL rosters.
I was going to say, like, you could very easily have at least Nuke and James Conner running off into retirement.
Right.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yep.
Real quick here, let's get into the chat. We've got some comments in here. We have got Jamie Parag saying, "What is up, guys?" Jamie, thank you so much for tuning in. We always appreciate the support. Our favorite fantasy football cat, Mr. Scampers, here saying, hello, guys and gals. It's great to see you. Hopefully we're going to get to see you in Canton here in August. Now we've got a question from Jamie here, John. He said, or traded away Jerome Ford for Jalen Polk in a start one running back league, but he also has Bijan Gibbs and he drafted Blake Corum. As far as his side is concerned, was this a win or a loss for him?
Oh, almost any deal I can get rid of Jerome Ford, I'm doing it. And I'm a pretty big fan of Polk. I always have been, and I really think he's going to be the wide receiver one for the New England at some point. And so you're essentially, well, I mean, that might not be that great right now, but eventually that could be a good thing.
Sure.
Drake May steps in and takes over, does starts doing pretty well. They do kind of have a rough schedule this year, so it might not be amazing this year. But you're probably not able to make this deal a year from now, or like even 6 months from now, or whatever. If right. Nick Chubb comes back or whatever, like I don't think Jerome Ford's that good. So I love this, especially considering you already have other players that you're going to be able to start. It's not like you were really relying on Jerome Ford anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you. Jerome Ford's a nice little handcuff piece. Nick Chubb's going to be sitting for a minute. Give him some time to get back into it. So sure, Jerome Ford, but you can move him now. Like you said, and I'm in the camp with you here, John. I have been grabbing Jalen Polk at a very high rate in rookie drafts because he's falling to the 3rd and 4th round. He's going to be the wide receiver one on this team eventually. And I know a lot of people are down on the Patriots offense. I'm not as down on it. This is a different regime. This isn't the Bill Belichick team. This isn't the Bill Belichick offense. I think Jared Mayo is bringing some life to this team. The players seem excited. Hunter Henry seems excited about what his role is going to be in this offense. I think they're going to be more dynamic than we're expecting. I think Jalen Polk could be a wide receiver too this season. So I really like this trade a lot. Jamie, I'm going to give you a win as well. Brad Bolt weighing in here saying Kelce is worth 1 1/4 first. The other two make up 3/4 of a first. Yes, Brad, I do believe that's what he's saying. And then here's a really good point from Jamie. Deshaun doesn't target running backs, which is very true. So that does in PPR formats, that's a massive ding to any running back's value. Now, speaking of running backs that have taken a ding to value over the last couple of years, this next trade, John, 2 days ago, Safe League's Dynasty 86. It's a basic super flex tight end premium league, 12 teams, 2 QB. Here's the trade. Austin Eckler and Sam Howell for Brandon Cooks and Sam Darnold. Straight across the board here, I'm going to say right now, I hate this trade for the Darnold Cook side. Hate it.
I kind of just hate the trade in general because I want Cooks and I want Howell. And so I can't get a trade where that works. I mean, I guess it depends on what they're looking for. Obviously, I don't think anyone is valuing Eckler very highly, although I do think that he's going to be the receiving option for Washington, regardless of what that is. And I think that's really going to be a ding for Brian Robinson this year because people people don't realize he got most of his scoring based on the receiving game last year. And so Eckler's going to come in. He's not going to be amazing. He's not going to be the Eckler of old or anything like that, but he is going to be the receiving back. Cooks actually had a pretty quiet, solid second half of the season last year. And there's really no reason to believe that, anything's going to truly change there. So I want Brandon Cooks. I don't think Sam Darnold's any good, but he is probably going to be the starter for at least a couple games, most likely, maybe even half a season, whatever, depending on how slowly they want to progress JJ McCarthy in there. But I honestly, we talked about it on the last pod, how I think that Sam Howell is one of the better buys right now where you should be adding him into any deal. So while I want to get Cooks, I don't want to use Sam Howell to get him, so it's really difficult. I guess, when it's all said and done, because I believe Howell is one of the better buys in Dynasty right now and all that. Brandon Cook's age, Sam Darnold's not long for the NFL as far. I'm more than a backup or anything like that. I think I got to go with the Howell side and really Eckler's kind of a throw-in. But like I said, I do not like this trade.
Yeah, and I'm with you. If I had to pick a side, it's going to be the Eckler-Howell side, and it's going to be because of Sam Howell. And you and I agree on this here. Sam Howell is one of the better buys right now in Dynasty. He's cheap to acquire, and he has a realistic path to being the starter in Seattle and being a good one at that with a lot of pretty decent weapons, better than what he had in Washington last season. And I'll take on Eckler. to get Sam Howell, and I'll give up Brandon Cooks to get Sam Howell. Darnold's just kind of like as Matt Chester would put it, it's a negative value trade. The other team is agreeing to take on Sam Darnold because
he's going to score points. I mean, he's going to have, like, obviously you want backup QBs and things like that. It's not like Sam Darnold's completely valueless or anything like that, but I don't think he's ever going to push to be a starter anywhere beyond a bridge quarterback kind of deal. Yeah. Or once again, I think that Howe can. And so, like, that's why I'd much rather have the Howe side.
No, and I'm with you on that. And I hate that Austin Eckler has fallen so far. I think there's going to be some value for him this season, but I do worry with Jaden Daniels there being a more mobile style quarterback. We tend to see receiving backs get phased out in offenses like that. But I am going to say I don't love the hate on my Facebook friend, Brian Robinson Jr. of the Washington Commanders, because I think that he can thrive in this offense if he relegates himself to more of a rushing role, which I do believe this team is going to do.
He's not a very good running back, though. That's the problem. Like he really scored a lot of his points in the receiving game, scoring touchdowns.
But I think he can be an effective between the tackles and around the ends guy. I think he can.
It would be the first time.
I know, but you never know, man. You never know. We're gonna
go to some camp. Like he got better this offseason all of a sudden. You know?
He did. He went to my camp that's called "Quit Screwing My Fantasy Teams." Also, you're my Facebook friend, so don't watch my shows. All right, so we're gonna go to the next trade here. This is another safe leagues. It's a Best Ball Dynasty 102. It's a basic Superflex tight end premium standard scoring. Here's the trade: Kareem Hunt, Nelson Aguilar, a 2025 third-round rookie pick, and a 2025 fourth-round rookie pick in exchange for, John's already shaking his head over there for the podcast listeners here, for Mike Williams of the New York Jets and Tyler Conklin of the New York Jets. So my early observation here is you've got a few things going on. Team B is either a really big Jets fan or they got knocked out. They woke up and they think it's 2021. They're going after Mike Williams and Tyler Conklin. Nelson Aguilar is still relevant. You know, people are going to love this Aguilar kid. Kareem Hunt, what a stud for the Chiefs he's been back here in 2021. Although I don't understand it. There's literally no value to Mike Williams or Tyler Conklin in this Jets offense. They have Garrett Wilson. They just brought in Malachi Corley. Aaron Rodgers' offenses don't use tight ends that often. John, can you explain this to me?
I can't explain the other side. I would much rather have players that are actually playing, like Mike Williams and Tyler Conklin. So I don't understand the other side at all. But I think this is a bad way to get out. Like, I get selling Mike Williams, but like this isn't the time to do that because you're essentially selling Mike Williams for a third. I mean, when it's all it's all broken down, you can even take away Kareem Hunt, take away Nelson Aguilar, and it's essentially Mike Williams for a third and Tyler Conklin for a fourth. And so like while I love paying those prices to get them, the person selling them, like I think there's a world where Mike Williams could be worth a second at some point because he's going to be the wide receiver 2 in that offense. Like there's no one else. Alan Lazard isn't beating him out, like Xavier Gibson or whoever. Like those players aren't beating out Mike Williams. So as long as he's able to actually stay on the field somewhat, come back from this injury, I think it's possible he could get back up to like a late second valuation, something like that at some point. So selling them for a future third now just seems like you can get a third for a Mike Williams kind of player at any point. So like there's no reason to make this deal right now. But for the other side, it's like, hell yeah, give me 2 players that at least are going to score some kind of points for me because it's definitely not going to be Kareem Hunt or Nelson Aguilar.
Okay. I kind of disagree a little bit on Kareem Hunt. I think he could be an asset that he might land somewhere at some point in the season and get you some points. Nelson Aguilar, not so much. I'm looking at this. Here's my perspective on it. I don't believe that Mike Williams plays more than 2 games for the Jets. I just don't see it. Tyler Conklin,
I can't argue with it.
Yeah. And I don't think that Tyler Conklin is even a tight end 2 at this point. I think I have him at like tight end 28 in my dynasty rankings. I just don't see the value here. So I'd rather at least get a couple of third and fourth round picks that maybe I can couple him with Kareem Hunt if he comes back and has some impact at some point this season and move those along and get something else for it. And in the process, I got rid of Mike Williams and Tyler Conklin.
I just looked really quick, and it's absolutely hilarious. Tyler Conklin is my tight end 28.
See? There, and that's why I'm okay with this. I like the A side. Look, Kareem Hunt and Nelson Aguilar might kind of be a toss in here. They might return some value later down the line. Those 3rd and 4th round picks, they're good value picks, and I cleared out some roster space. I mean,
it's just gross all around. I don't know. This is like a trade to trade kind of deal. Like we want to get a deal done.
Yeah, that's
we've
fair.
been itching, and so let's just do something. And that's what it feels like more than like, oh, let's go out and help our team. That does not feel like it on either side.
Oh, definitely. Just real quick, guys, while we're between trades, I want to remind you what we have coming up next week. First of all, Friday, we have our NFL show. The NFL and the mock draft show logos got transposed here. The NFL show is on Friday. We have the mock draft show on Monday. That's going to be another Scott Fish Bowl mock draft. And then on Tuesday, the Debbie Devotional is back with John and Aaron. They're going to talk college ball. It's going to be beautiful. Now, John, the next trade we're going to talk about, I don't know how beautiful this is, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because it leads to a conversation about player value that I want to have, that I have had a few times over the last 2 or 3 months, but I want to get your take on this. So Team A is giving up Alvin Kamara in a 2025 first straight up for Jonathan Taylor.
Sorry.
Do we? Yeah, no, you're fine. So here's my question, and it really centers around Jonathan Taylor. We know what happens to running backs when they have a guy like Anthony Richardson or Jalen Hurts. They don't get the rock as much. They lose a lot of that goal line upside. Jonathan Taylor for a first, that seems like too much to me. I don't think I'd be willing to pay a first for Jonathan Taylor right now because I don't think he's going to return that value with Anthony Richardson. Then you toss in Alvin Kamara. Am I off on this? Am I undervaluing Jonathan Taylor? Or is there something to me not wanting to give up this much for a running back I don't know that's going to be great this year?
I think it's just how people feel about running backs nowadays. Like it's just really difficult to like pay anything of substance for running backs because you just feel like you're going to get screwed. Somebody's going to tear an ACL or do whatever. And it just sucks. That's why the NFL is not paying them because, for the same exact reason. And it hurts to pay it. But that being said, these are the kind of deals where it's like, all right, well, Alvin Kamara, beyond the fact of like he might actually be holding out, which we found out today. But even if we take that away and it's just, hey, like he's going to play, he's not suspended this year, like everything's going to be fine. He definitely took a step back in his play last year. He did not look like his normal efficient self. And so like I'm perfectly fine going from a 29-year-old Alvin Kamara down to a 25-year-old or 26-year-old Jonathan Taylor. 25-year-old. Yeah, 25-year-old Jonathan Taylor by adding a first. So like I feel like this is pretty much the going rate. And I would say that most of the time you're not even getting this deal done by offering the Jonathan Taylor manager a first and Alvin Kamara because they're probably going, nah, I don't want to get a 29-year-old running back, whatever. This is the kind of deal where if Kamara does end up being like the Kamara of old, then that person's probably going to win that side because you're going to get a buttload of points this year and you're getting that 25 first. But I really think when it's all said and done, I want the Taylor side because give me that youth. We know Jonathan Taylor's a stud. He's probably not going to get as many touches and all that kind of stuff, but he's going to be more efficient on his touches because they do have to worry about Anthony Richardson's rushing and things of that nature. So I think he's going to have a really efficient year, which is good because he probably will lose some touches and all that kind of stuff. But, it's kind of like that. Obviously not exactly the same, but like last year I traded away Tony before the season started. I traded away Tony Pollard and got back DeAndre Swift because I just wanted to get a couple years back. You're always trying to like get a couple years back. And obviously I expected a Pollard to have a better year than he did. But, I was really just trying, like, I kind of thought they were going to have similar seasons. I was just trying to gain 2 years back. And that's what I kind of feel like you're doing here, but you're doing it, with the first round picks. So, it's the same thing. If you're competing, if you feel like Taylor can actually score you points and help you out and all that, winning a championship, then you're not going to be too worried about that first when it's all said and done anyway.
Yeah, and so here's kind of where I guess my concern is that Jonathan Taylor can't live up to his price. And I don't think he lives up to his price over the next 2 or 3 seasons. RB33 the last 2 years. Now, he's been over 4 yards per carry. One, I worry about durability. A guy who had 300 carries in 2021, then 192 over 11 games, 169 over 10 games. It's a lot of carries. And then you're talking about he's going to be 26 this season. He's going into his 5th year. I would almost take, if you're a contending team, I would take Kamara in the first because Kamara returns a PPR upside in an offense that needs him to. Whereas Jonathan Taylor isn't as much of a linchpin in the offense as he maybe was at one time because you've got Anthony Richardson.
It's really tough because you have a player coming off an injury that was good at some point. It's crazy to think just a couple of years ago, he was being valued as like 3 first-round picks and like one of the best players in the league and all that kind of stuff. And now we're like basically saying like, oh, is he worth the first? That's just kind of crazy. The downfall of running backs and downfall of Jonathan Taylor. So there's a lot of unknowns really on either side, but I still lean towards Taylor because he's the best player in this deal, obviously. But I get, getting out for that. I guess, I don't know. Like it's probably safer to go the Kamara in the first route, but it's, I think you have a better chance of winning your league with the Taylor route.
Sure.
If that makes any sense.
It does make sense. I mean, I disagree, but it makes sense. And this is the great thing about what we do, right? We get to have different opinions. So now the listeners get to decide which one of us is smart and which one's a dumbass. I'm probably the dumbass. So we'll just but now, guys, I want to get to some listener trades. This is one of my favorite things to do. We had some people submit today on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, some trades. Now we're going to bring up this first one, John. This is from @AlphaMaleJMJ on Twitter. He receives Christian McCaffrey, sends a 2026 second, a 2025 first, and a 2025 second for Christian McCaffrey. To me, this feels like a steal. How do you feel about it?
I don't know about a steal. I mean, it's one. You're paying for a 28-year-old running back. Like it's not great, but you're paying for one of the most productive running backs in the league. I feel like this is what I would. I don't think it's a steal, but it is what I would like to pay to acquire McCaffrey. So I like the trade. I think it's pretty fair for both sides. For the pick side, I guess I wish that there was no 26 picks involved. I wish it was all 25 picks, but I mean,
sure.
Obviously you have to accept what you can accept. So
Right.
It's a good way, especially if you're rebuilding, whatever. It's a good way to get out of McCaffrey. Hopefully that first is going to be early when it's all said and done. The fact that you're sending McCaffrey to the guys probably means it's not going to be. And so that's the only issue.
Right.
But unfortunately it's the same thing. Like McCaffrey could blow out a knee and he's done, and at this point you basically wasted like almost like 2 firsts worth of value for just about nothing. But he just got that contract. He should be linked to a very good offense, a very good team for at least a couple more years. And so like I think this is the appropriate price to go get McCaffrey. And if you're ready to go all in, I like it.
Yeah, if I'm win now, if I've got a contending team heading into this season, I'm more than willing to pay this for McCaffrey. I've seen him going for 2 firsts and in leagues.
Yes, I'm not paying that. I'm not
either. If I can get him for this, I will jump on that. Now, the next trade we've got is from Jack Lucene. You can find him on Twitter. I believe it's @Jack Lucene. I'm sorry, Jack. I'm really bad with handles, but his podcast is awesome. Find it on my Twitter @Nate Polvogt. Here's the trade. He received Jared Goff, Mark Andrews, a 2024 fourth, which is the 409, and the 2024 204. He sent, oh, no, I take that back. He is getting Evan Ingram, a 2024 second, a 2024 third, and a 2024 first. This is a lot to give up to get Evan Ingram, but you're also getting those picks. I think for me, it just depends on where you land on Mark Andrews, right? Do you think Mark Andrews is at his peak now and is going to fade over the next couple of seasons? Or do you think we've still got maybe 2 to 3 elite seasons out of Mark Andrews. What do you think about this, John?
Did you say was it 1 QB or 2?
It actually doesn't say. So we're going to assume it's 2 QB.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because that'll make a pretty big difference, because that 103, could be Jaden Daniels, or or obviously if it's 1 QB, it's a completely different story. But regardless, I'm assuming that 103 is going to be a pretty solid pick. And I mean, like, we just talked about how much we love Jared Goff last week, but I mean, if you're talking about Jared Goff versus like a Jaden Daniels or something, I got to go with Jaden Daniels. Like I got to have at least give me a shot to have that like extreme league winning upside, like that kind of thing. And then honestly, do you really think that Ingram and Andrews are going to score all that differently over the next couple of years? Especially when I would almost even take the age thing out of it, because they're both not like. I don't think Ingram's young. He's younger than Andrews, but like he's not exactly a spring chicken or anything either. So I think, once again, I think it's actually pretty fair, but I think I want the 103 side. I get the other side, and I like the 204 and the 24 in the 24 rookie class, because I've gotten a lot of like Trey Benson and even I'm trying to think of who else around that range. But yeah, honestly, I think I took mostly Benson around that range because he would fall a lot. And so I like that pick. But, once again, the league winning upside with the Jaden Daniels at 103, or if somebody took him earlier or whatever, all of a sudden you have a MHJ or Caleb Williams or whoever at 103. I mean, the upside is definitely phenomenal there.
Yeah, I don't think I look at this trade, and these are the kinds of trades I like to see in Dynasty, because I think both sides benefit. They address needs that each team had. I don't necessarily think there's a winner or a loser here. I'd prefer to be on the Duke side because of how much I love Jared Goff. And dude, I'm a slut for second round picks. Like, I'll just be honest. I love them.
Well, like Brad said in the chat, you still have the 212 on the other side. And so, I mean, you can get a player like a Jalen Polk or, a Marshawn Lloyd, somebody like that at, around 212. And so you can
don't say Marshawn Lloyd around me. It gets me too excited.
Dude, I have all the Lloyd. All the Lloyd. I have so much. I just checked. I have 40% Marshawn Lloyd in my Dynasty leagues. I love it.
Oh, wow. All right. So now this last one's for you. This is from your boy, Mike Valeri at FF Dirty Mike. This is a Debbie trade just for you. I don't really know a ton about college. So I want to hear you roll through this, buddy.
All right. So pretty much this is a bunch of crap for a bunch of other crap. And, like, I hate to say it, but there's just these are basically a bunch of players that should or like people thought were going to be amazing, and none of them have truly done anything yet. Carnell Tate's really the only one that you can say, Mike's in the chat. Carnell Tate's really the only one that you can say like has like any kind of actual value right now. But I mean, people like Mekhi Lemon. Unfortunately, I think he might end up being a defensive player when it's all said and done. So who knows? They keep saying they might put him at defensive back. Antonio Williams is basically a nothing. Jam Miller is kind of like an interesting player, but I don't think he's ever going to be anything in like the NFL that we're going to be excited about. He's probably going to be more of like a, 4th, 5th round pick, something like that, like nothing too crazy. And then I'm coming around on Jeremy Bernard, but I still don't know if I actually believe he's special. The only thing you can really say is that he was the 4th wheel for Washington last year that gave us Roma Dunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan. So, like he didn't really have a shot to get on there and do anything. So you can give him a little bit of a leeway there, but yeah, I don't know. I think I got to go with the Tate and Bernard side, especially you're getting an earlier pick. I honestly wasn't even paying attention to the picks when it first started, but hey, you're getting a round 6 pick. Give me Tate and Bernard. I don't like Lemon, and that's not like consensus or anything like that, but I really don't like any of the players on the other side.
So I'm gonna guess that the side that you like was Mike's, because it was at the top. The bottom said 2 with a name blanked out. So we're going to assume that Mike had the right side of this trade.
He's in the chat. He can let us know, because
I
would actually prefer if it wasn't Mike's side that won.
Of course you would. All right, guys. Well, that does it for us. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a blast. Episode 2 of the Dynasty Show. Now, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have a ton more content coming as we get closer to the season. As I mentioned earlier in the show, we have another Scott Fishbowl 14 invite to give away. So look for more details on that in the coming days here. Check out our link tree in the show notes. It has links to all of our social media, so look for ways to win. Guys, we'll be back next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern with more offseason Dynasty chatter. Optimus NFL is coming tomorrow. We have the Optimus NFL mock draft show on Monday. Debbie Devotional coming on Tuesday, and the Best Ball Show will be back with myself and Eric on Wednesday, guys. Thank you again so much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next week.